Our second guest of this Friday's show is the former head basketball coach at BYU, Steve Cleveland, joining us on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Coach, welcome back and welcome to the month of December.
Yeah, it's nice. You're having some pretty nice weather, and so are we, so it's good.
Hey, we will take it. And we will take what we have seen from BYU basketball, most recently against Utah Valley. In your mind, what was the best thing you saw from the Cougars in that dominant road win at UVU?
They locked them up defensively. I mean, they just locked them up. I mean, when a team hits 18 threes at your place the year before and they make one this year, it tells you that defensively they were doing some different things. The schemes, the energy, the intensity. I mean, literally, they just could not run anything. And that's the thing that stands out the most.
One of the really cool stories about that game was the play of McKay Cannon, who just literally hours before found out that he was cleared to play. This is a guy that's had significant playing time when he was at Weber State. How does McKay Cannon change the dynamic of this team and what Coach Rose can do?
Well, I mean, the most immediate thing is it gives him 8 deep now. It improves the depth of this team. I mean, he's obviously a shooter, and he can play the point guard. It has a pretty high basketball IQ. But the other thing, within that system, as you both know, a lot of ball screens are set. And when you can have multiple players coming off ball screens, being a threat to shoot or a threat to drive, it just makes the system better. So just in terms of the offensive system, it gets better. And then when teams zone them, Hartnett hit a couple threes the other night, but he's a little inconsistent. But if Cannon's playing the point now, you got 4 positions. Actually, depending if you go small, you might have all 5 guys that can knock threes down. So against zones, it improves situations. And then again, when guys get in foul trouble, you just got one more guy that can come in there and contribute. So now that's a big get late, and he didn't seem to be afraid of the moment and stepped up and played really well.
BYU overall has been a much better defensive team compared to last year when you look at 7 games this year. Why do you think they have had that fundamental change? Like, where do you attribute that type of defensive improvement?
Starts with the mindset. I think the coaching staff worked on that all summer. Obviously, Coach Schroyer brings a real influence there as well. But I think he and Coach Rose both realized that to be confident defensively, you got to have the right mindset. There has to be an attention to detail. And I think in past, even with some of their good teams, there wasn't that attention to detail, especially in game preparation. I've watched a lot of teams go through game preparation and how focused they are. Those are all little things that, people don't think about, but the fact is they really lend themselves to a much, much improved defensively. Obviously, too, there seems to be more accountability on the floor. Guys are communicating with each other, and, it's not often that the celebration for teams and the guys getting excited oftentimes usually comes from the offensive end. But now you see guys really locked in, all in, and just technically they're better. And I think that's primarily what they worked on most of the summer, and it's showing off early.
Steve Cleveland joining us here on BYU Sports Nation on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. 7 games, Coach. BYU 5-2 through these 7 games of the season. What do you know about this BYU basketball team right now?
They're much more patient offensively. I mean, I think the mission is still to run with pace on misses and turnovers, but when they get into the half court, I pretty much know they're not going to take bad shots. And I think that's really important. There's been very, very few bad shots in terms of the half court. I think what we just talked about defensively, I know that there's going to be a game plan and that the guys are going to be committed to executing it. I mean, sometimes talent wins out, but if the other night is any indication of it, I know that they are much more solid defensively as a group. And then I think the last thing is that we're watching a really, really, really special player in his early development. Great ceiling on Yoli Childs. He's going to bring it every night. And the fact that I think he's had 4 double-doubles already in a very young season, and I think last year, he's almost, I think maybe had 6 or 7. So he has just really made a difference, and just playing with so much confidence, and has really developed some leadership skills here. And that happens when guys get more confident and they can be really supportive of others rather than kind of worrying about their own game.
Where will Yoli Childs rank among the best players in the West Coast Conference when this season is over?
He'll be in the top 5 or 10%. You know, I mean, obviously, I watched Gonzaga play the other night. They're not going away. I'll just tell you that right now. I mean, the names may be different on the back of the jerseys, but at the end of the day, they're still really good. St. Mary's had a couple of hiccups, but I would say Yoeli's in the top 3 or 4 players in the conference, and could surface as really the surprise of the conference. But there are some pretty good bigs in the league, but Yoeli's projections are going nothing but up. And he'll have nights where maybe everything isn't perfect, but wow, he's just playing with so much more patience. He's not in a hurry. He knows what he wants to do, and he's just playing with a great deal of confidence.
ESPN's BPI, the Basketball Power Index, gives BYU a 49% chance of winning in Logan tomorrow night. Where do you place the odds of a victory for BYU heading up to the Spectrum tomorrow? You know,
part of this depends on whether Kobe McEwen plays. Man, this kid has been in and out of the lineup with an ankle injury, and he's really good. He's one of the stars in this state in terms of a sophomore, 6'4", can really play. Obviously, my thoughts on this, if he's not playing, it really improves BYU's chances to win because he's a big part of what they do. But I still give BYU the advantage. And I would say it's more like 60-40, I think, in the advantage. And the reason I say that is that BYU's had really good wins against disciplined teams like Princeton, playing UVU on the road, having UMass, having an opportunity. They've had some really good experiences on the road, even in losing situations. I think they're way more prepared to play up there and win than they ever have been because of the system, because of some of the success they've had. And if they can keep Utah State around 40% field goal shooting and 30% three-point shooting, and I think the key thing, too, is if they can get to the free throw line 20 times up there, then they'll put themselves in a really good position to steal one up in Logan. They're hard to come by. I mean, I won a couple times up there, and had some really good games. But it's also not the same place. You know, I mean, it's just a little bit different than it was. There aren't 10,000 there every night, and it's just a little bit different playing in the Spectrum. But it's still playing up there, and I suspect they'll come out.
The former head basketball coach Steve Cleveland with us on BYU Sports Nation. Let's rewind to what happened in Game 2 of that Brooklyn trip. BYU's down 10 points with 4 minutes to play against UMass. TJ Haas 0 for 10 in that game. What did BYU's win against UMass do for this team's mentality?
Well, it really, really solidifies their belief in each other, but even more so in what the coaching staff has been preaching and teaching in the last 4 or 5 months. And I think when those two things connect, when guys get it, and all of a sudden they're all in terms of what they're doing offensively and defensively. And when they win on the road in very difficult circumstances, they believe. And they believe, and all of a sudden now they're talking amongst one another. They become more of a player-led team. They know what they have to do. And those kind of wins galvanize a team. And that's why I say I like the idea that BYU can go and win at Utah State. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, and I know how difficult it's been for everybody that goes up there and plays. But I think they're more prepared to win up there this year than any time I can remember in the last 4 or 5 years.
Coach, enjoy the balmy California weather in December. We'll do the same here on the Wasatch Front. Always great to talk to you, and we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, I look forward to it. I'll be in Provo next week, so I look forward to seeing you and maybe do a little in-person show.
Yes, party with Steve Cleveland in Provo. We look forward to it.
See you guys. Have a good weekend.
The former coach on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, your values, your timeline, your financial future.